Plant manager saw bag of food in fridge, thought the food fairies left it for her to pilfer. This was 20 years ago, but I'll never forget it. I used to work in the office of a manufacturing plant. There was a group of us 4 females that would pitch in to buy lunch stuff to hold us through the week. We would make a list on Friday and one of us, usually me, would shop on Monday morning and bring it in with us. We even brought in a sandwich maker and toaster to keep us from getting bored. We had been doing this for months when suddenly the food wouldn't last through the week. The first time we chalked it up to us being hungrier than normal and moved on. By week 3, we decided that we just need to buy more stuff, and we did. But again, it ran out fast and we were really confused. One day I went to grab something from the break room and there are all our bags on the table and the plant manager making a ridiculously large sandwich. When I asked what she was doing, she said making a sandwich. I asked if anyone told her that she could make lunch from our stash. She said no and went on to say she found these bags of groceries and had been doing it for weeks. I let her know that the groceries were ours because we were trying to save money, but now we know why our food was running out so fast. She said she didn't know they were ours. She just thought someone bought them for everyone. I asked why she didn't find out who they belonged to first, and she looked at me like a deer in headlights. When I let my coworkers know, they were pissed. One of them said she knew they were our groceries because she had asked my coworker why she had so much food one day. We stopped the lunch group that week and started bringing food from home. A couple weeks later, the plant manager asked me where our groceries were. I let her know that we couldn't afford to keep feeding people that made more than we did. Edit time because I left there in 2002 and didn't math right. I worked in many different places but never encountered a person that ignorant about food in a refrigerator. Damn, I love your response to her. She should have bought you all lunch to pay you back. But that would require her not being cheap. I used to live near the biscuit factory, so used to run a 2 kilograms box of biscuits pool for the staff. Bicky stash. Great mix of custard creams, cookies and chocolate-covered biscuit bars. After a while though, everyone stopped paying in because of boring biscuits. This I was offended by. Those boxes were banging value, so I staked out the box. And one fateful afternoon caught a secretary stuffing all the chocolate biscuits into a bin bag. Caught red-handed. Her excuse was they were for her children's lunchbox. She didn't last long. The absolute cheek. This is like the story of the boss's daughter stealing other people's food at work. But she had a peanut allergy and ate a guy's Thai food. She had a reaction and had to go to the hospital, and the boss wanted the guy to pay her hospital bill. He didn't pay and quit the job. My company will fire people for stealing lunches. It was such a big problem that every cafeteria and fridge in the production area has cameras on it. It's always the ones that make the most money that steal from others. She didn't know who it belonged to, but she knew it didn't belong to her. This is why I always used to bring in my lunch in a little cooler I left by my desk. I couldn't stand the thought of anyone touching my stuff. And at both places I have worked full-time, there was always a lunch bandit. You know, they are looking in all the bags and touching things to see if it's something they'd like. And sodas would always disappear. When I was doing 787 flight testing, we'd have box lunches and cases of bottled water delivered to the plane for test flights. The ground crew would always try to steal it, so we'd have to quickly Sherpa it up the air stairs and hide it. Then we noticed that someone was ransacking the lunches in flight and taking the cookies. I finally caught one of my coworkers taking them and hiding them in his backpack. He sheepishly said he took them home to give to the kids in Sunday school. I told him there was a special place in hell for cookie thieves. I would bring my food in, and if I didn't eat it that night, I would leave it for the following day. And thus wouldn't bring anything in because I already had food there. One day I come in and my food is gone. Ask around and the supervisor say he ate it. I asked him why, and his response was that, well, he didn't know whose it was. Well, if you don't know whose food it is, then you know it's not yours. She was a thief and should have been dealt with as such. I am obviously very naive. I can't believe people would eat something they know isn't theirs, knowing full well that's all they have to eat for the day. To leave someone hungry just so you're not is childish at the least. Holy crap, that's selfish. But the one that said she was feeding her family takes the prize for lowlife of the week. I am stunned, flushed. The audacity to ask you about the groceries after she's been caught and confronted for stealing from you and your coworkers is staggering. Where's my free food op? I worked for a department store hair salon. Every once in a while we'd have a potluck. Of course, we had our moochers, but nothing like a certain manager who'd be picking at the food as soon as we unwrapped it, and would help himself to several large plates a day. We never understood how he knew, since his department was nowhere near the salon. Later, we discovered our salon manager, who never contributed so much as a corn chip, would run down through every management office and invite them all to fill up a plate. It's bad enough to have freeloaders, but particularly bad when one would fix multiple plates a day. Love it. She knew. She didn't care. Whatever her situation. You said it. She made more money, and if she can't afford her own lunch and has to steal from her employees who are paid less, then that's her problem. Wow. I hope she was embarrassed when you said that. Talk about entitled. Did she honestly think you were supposed to just keep feeding her? Even if she didn't know whose food that was. She knew it wasn't hers, so why would she have thought it was okay to just take it? I'll never understand people that do this kind of thing. I'm glad you ladies called her out on her crap. I just hope it was enough to stop her from ever doing it again. Nah, she knew, they always know. And then play dumb. Had my fully marked lunch stolen quite a few times when our office took our fridge from the second floor and consolidated a bigger break room on bottom floor. Management didn't give a crap. I'm talking good leftover from dinner food too, not just sandwiches and junk. I was doubly pissed because I worked 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. and by the time my lunch rolled around, everything around us was closed. So I stuck a bigger cooler some frozen ice bottles in my car and kept my lunch in it instead. Never got stolen again. Thankfully I don't work there anymore. The place didn't care who they hired, and the ladies' room was always trashed. I love the last sentence. Way to go, op. I just had my lunch stolen today at work, so quite good timing to read this. If she was honestly innocent in knowing, she would have offered to pitch in and replace the food she ate. The gall of a manager to assume employees brought food for everyone. That's what a manager does. This reminds me of a story also about 20 years ago. So I was 15 when I got my first job in a nursing home doing housekeeping. One of the nurses was always super nice to me and treated me really well. She had bought me a birthday cake for my 16th birthday and put it in the break room fridge before my shift started. I'd go in after school. Well, some greedy ass CNA, yes you Laura, dug into it before I started shift. Like, how do you dig into someone else's birthday cake before they see it? I don't understand people like this. I'm so paranoid with my food. If I haven't visited your home and seen the state of your kitchen, I won't eat anything offered. I am also the type to check the health board reviews before going to a restaurant. People are way too relaxed about food safety and it causes me so much stress. I worked at a Walmart while I was in college. It was off a major highway surrounded by industrial park. No restaurant or fast food places for miles. So everyone brought their lunch. Then each day a lunch would disappear. Employees reported the problem and management ignored the problem. I was in the front row when an assistant manager walked in. Couldn't find her lunch and realized the door greeter was chowing down on her food. She blew the roof of the place. Evidently it was okay for lunches to be stolen until it was her lunch. And she was broke until payday and she would go hungry for the rest of the day. Way back in the day I worked at a medical clinic and every week someone's food would disappear. It was one of the physicians who kept stealing the food. At one potluck I told him he already ate his share that week and the week before that and so on. I was joking of course but not really. Other coworkers laughed but he didn't get the joke. Was unfazed actually. Yes, he knew what he was doing. SMDH at you Dr. Lombard. I worked night shift and the last shift of the week would get out at 3 a.m. I'd get a small pizza around 9:00 and eat most of it, saving the last for when I left so I didn't get home and start eating. One week, my pizza was gone. Next week, I found a guy hiding in the break room cramming it down his throat. I yelled and cursed him out. He was thick in the head though. Next week, saved my pizza but this time I doused the leftovers with some ass-melting hot sauce one guy made. This stuff peeled linoleum. Sure enough, 2:30 tolls by and my pizza thief is hightailing to the bathroom to puke it up. Last time he did it. In my teens I baked cookies once and wasn't paying close enough attention. Instead of cinnamon I put in cayenne pepper. My mom worked in the hospital lab and decided to take cookies to work with her to see if she could catch their food thief. Turns out it was an X-ray tech that wasn't even supposed to be in their break room. I once had a boss come up and start eating the food off of my desk while I was sitting there. Eating it, I had a sandwich and some chips for lunch and he stops by and starts eating my chips. I asked him what he thought he was doing. He replied that he thought I wouldn't mind. This was in an open concept office, so others were around and not eating from my desk. The boss was such an entitled jerk. He was born into serious wealth and felt he was slumming working with regular people. I'm still blown away at the amount of functioning adults who think touching someone else's stuff without their knowledge because nobody said anything. Like, come on. This ain't the 4th grade. Only a fucking child uses that excuse. The solution was a small cooler I kept at my desk. It was so annoying. WTF. The entitlement of that woman to come up to you and ask where the food she was going to steal was. This why I have a small refrigerator on my desk. I will burn the place down if my food gets stolen. In the years I didn't, my lunch used to get stolen. I would have loved to have seen her face to your response in the end. I'm picturing a child about to have a temper tantrum, tears of joy, tears of joy, tears of joy. I had 2 roommates who did this. We bought our own groceries and had our own separate shelf in the fridge. My food would always run out and I asked them several times and they denied it. Finally they confessed and said that they each thought it was the other one's food. I told them that they knew it wasn't theirs so they would have asked the other, who could then tell them that it wasn't theirs either. I swear it was an excuse they made to eat my food. I had a bottle of sriracha in the fridge. I used it in my ramen and other stuff. Boiled eggs, sandwiches, etc. Nonetheless, I used it sparingly. A bottle would last me for months. One day a coworker walked up to the fridge with some chicken nuggets he got at the canteen. He dumps out about cup of ketchup into the top lid of the clamshell container. He proceeds to pour about half of my sriracha on top, saying, dippin' sauce. After he left, I moved my sriracha into my desk. Stuff like this is absolutely ridiculous. When I know a coworker has brought in a load of treats like mini cakes, sweets, chocolates, etc. for everyone, I still only take one of each to make sure everyone else gets something. In my opinion, that's just manners. It's like using the last of the coffee or sugar, you replace it. So there is something there for the next person. How the fucking hell do you open a fridge at work and decide that anything in there is fair game? I genuinely don't understand the thought process. How is it that no one brought in a decoy lunch made with seriously hot spices, left it in the refrigerator, and waited? I am astonished. I froze my soups, nuked them at lunch, after they kept my lunch cool all morning. How ridiculous was she? I mean, she could have just asked to join your grocery group. Then she could have continued to enjoy the food in the fridge but having actually fairly contributing to it. Instead, she's greedy and ends something good for everyone, including her stupid self. She asked you where your groceries were. What an asshole. I let her know that we couldn't afford to keep feeding people that made more than we did. Nice. I always hated the entitlement of those in the front office that would come out to the break rooms of us grunts looking for free food, and to this day I do not understand the mentality of it being no big deal to them. A couple weeks later, the plant manager asked me where our groceries were. I let her know that we couldn't afford to keep feeding people that made more than we did. This was a perfect response, snippy and true, and she damn well knew it. Congratulations on your chef's kiss, Singer. F that greedy pig. You threw it away? Ross from Friends. One of the places I used to work had offices in what were 3 separate 2-bedroom apartments, complete with kitchens. In the kitchen next to my office, I kept bagels and cream cheese. The owner's wife, who worked with us, found them and ate all 6 bagels of the new bag I brought in, along with the container of cream cheese. She then had the audacity to ask why I didn't replenish them overnight. I told her it was my personal breakfast food. She said, "Oh, I know. That's why I asked you." No self-awareness. You are much nicer than me. Because when you were telling her about how your food was going faster than planned, I'd have added in a dig about, and boy, can you eat. Explains a bit about how your clothes are fitting these days. I guess I lost the pool, though. I said you were pregnant. So many other people thought you were just really enjoying the sweets. Everyone'll be happy to know you're just stealing lunches, I guess. I once had a supervisor that would eat your lunch and leave like $3.06 in its place. Every place I've worked has had the same rule: if it's in the fridge or on a counter, hands off. If it's in the middle of the table, it's fair game. The old rule of if it isn't yours, don't take it, use it, or keep it applies. What a jerk. I had to keep my food in an Aldi's cooler bag under my desk if I wanted it to survive. But I worked in tech support and started learning to put things in the fridge no one else was going to eat if I didn't want to keep it in my bag. I worked for a manager like that. She would go into the freezer and eat people's frozen lunches, then put the empty boxes back. If we put sodas in the refrigerator, she would go in, open one up and take a gulp, then ask if she could have it. She had absolutely no shame and took no responsibility. Worst boss ever. How does someone get to adulthood and not realize that taking food that isn't yours isn't acceptable is beyond me. The only thing that I can think of is that they know what they're doing. Even though it was 20 years ago, I can still taste it. Leave food in there again. This time with a bunch of laxative. I could never imagine stealing from the work fridge. I'm a 25-year-old adult who doesn't do the shopping but puts the list together, and if I don't recognize something in our fridge, I'll ask my hubby if it's his or a household bought thing, because that's just basic respect, that if you know something isn't yours or if you're uncertain, you ask first. I would suddenly start eating very spicy, like ghost pepper spicy in all my food, and tell the other people in my lunch group to avoid certain items. I once had a colleague who stole all the office candy each time, and then we switched to personal jars. He still thought he had right to it. Boy, was he mistaken when he took some of my ghost pepper laced wine gums. I made sure to have a sign on the jar saying, "Please don't take any of my stuff as my taste is very particular and you might not like it." Turned out he did not like it. Report her LMAO. There would have been a batch of X-Lax brownies in there. We did that to someone doing that to us also. Just waited to see who was in the bathroom a bunch after seeing it gone. Then the guy went home complaining of a gut ache. If it had been me, I would have demanded that she reimburse the group immediately. I love the deer in headlights part where she's obviously thinking, oh yes. I did ask someone and they said no, it wasn't for everyone. Ew, why the fuck would anyone go through anyone's food that they didn't know who it belonged to? Just gross. She should have asked. Or better yet, get her own damn lunch. I appreciate my work reading this. No one steals food and everyone, even non-managers, bring food in for everyone. Last week we cooked tacos on the grill 2 days in a row cause one guy bought like 5 pounds of meat. Same week another guy bought burgers and dogs to grill. Dilbert used to be one of my favorite comics before the recent racist rant. One in particular where the pointy-haired boss was stealing the intern's soda out of the employee fridge on a daily basis. Strangely, cannot find that panel today. A few years ago somebody at my work started taking sodas and energy drinks out of the fridge. I printed out that comic and taped it to the door of the fridge. The drinks stopped disappearing. I think it's obvious what you need to do. Shit in a brown paper bag and put it in the fridge your next shift. Boy, will she be mad when she takes a bite. Whether she knew it was your food or not, she absolutely knew it wasn't hers. What an asshole. Jesus fucking Christ, 20 years ago my lunch meat was eaten and I'll never forget it. Fuck off. I could honestly put food in a work refrigerator in the morning and by the end of the day be scared to take it because it could be someone else's and I could just have put mine somewhere else or not made food today. Her daughter works at my company. Apple doesn't fall far. Worked at a company that uses 3 letters to make its name. Retail. I would buy a soda 20 ounces on my break, tape my receipt to it and write my name on it. I would drink half and next break finish it. I would come back from breaks to my soda sitting at a 1.4 bottle. Management said oh well. Even when I complained about wasting my money due to cross-contamination possibilities. No X-Lax in the food for her? Had a community fridge at my last job. No one worried about others taking their food, thankfully, and when I was pregnant everyone knew which foods were mine because them cravings were strong and they could see me munching for most of the day on Funyuns, Yoo-hoos and blueberry muffins. Cold sweat smile. Wow, that sucks. Eat her lunch one day.